Son of Sardar 2 was released in 2025 and collected 43.11 crores rupees domestically for a flop verdict. Raid 2 was released in 2025 and collected 178.08 crores rupees domestically for a hit verdict. Ajay was released in 2025 and collected 6.32 crores rupees domestically for a flop verdict. Now was released in 2024 and collected 0.45 crores rupees domestically for a pending verdict. Singham again was released in 2024 and collected 268.35 crores rupees domestically for an average verdict. Auron Mein Kaha Dam Tha was released in 2024 and collected 8.59 crores rupees domestically for a flop verdict. Maidan was released in 2024 and collected 52.29 crores rupees domestically for a flop verdict. Shaitan was released in 2024 and collected 149.49 crores rupees domestically for a super hit verdict. Bhola was released in 2023 and collected 82.04 crores rupees domestically for an average verdict. Drishyam 2 was released in 2022 and collected 240.54 crores rupees domestically for a blockbuster verdict. Thank God was released in 2022 and collected 34.89 crores rupees domestically for a flop verdict. Runway 34 was released in 2022 and collected 32.96 crores rupees domestically for a flop verdict. Gangubai Kathiyawadi was released in 2022 and collected 129.10 crores rupees domestically for a hit verdict. Tanhaji, the Unsung Warrior, was released in 2020 and collected 279.55 crores rupees domestically for a blockbuster verdict. De De Pyar De was released in 2019 and collected 103.64 crores rupees domestically for a hit verdict. Total Dhamal was released in 2019 and collected 154.23 crores rupees domestically for a hit verdict. Raid was released in 2018 and collected 103.07 crores rupees domestically for a hit verdict. Golmaal again was released in 2017 and collected 205.69 crores rupees domestically for a super hit verdict. Badshaho was released in 2017 and collected 78.10 crores rupees domestically for an average verdict. Shivai was released in 2016 and collected 100.33 crores rupees domestically for an average verdict. Drishyam was released in 2015 and collected 67.13 crores rupees domestically for a semi-hit verdict. Action Jackson was released in 2014 and collected 57.78 crores rupees domestically for a flop verdict. Singham Returns was released in 2014 and collected 140.62 crores rupees domestically for a super hit verdict. Satyagraha was released in 2013 and collected 63.74 crores rupees domestically for a flop verdict. Himmatwala was released in 2013 and collected 47.45 crores rupees domestically for a flop verdict. Son of Sardar was released in 2012 and collected 105.03 crores rupees domestically for a hit verdict. Bol Bachchan was released in 2012 and collected 102.94 crores rupees domestically for a hit verdict. Tess was released in 2012 and collected 15.42 crores rupees domestically for a flop verdict. Rascals was released in 2011 and collected 32.60 crores rupees domestically for a flop verdict. Singham was released in 2011 and collected 100.30 crores rupees domestically for a hit verdict. Dil To Bachcha Hai Ji was released in 2011 and collected 28.91 crores rupees domestically for an average verdict. Tunpur Ka Superhero was released in 2010 and collected 3.55 crores rupees domestically for a flop verdict. Golmaal 3 was released in 2010 and collected 106.34 crores rupees domestically for a hit verdict. Akrosh was released in 2010 and collected 13.64 crores rupees domestically for a flop verdict. Once Upon a Time in Mumbai was released in 2010 and collected 55.47 crores rupees domestically for an average verdict. Rajniti was released in 2010 and collected 93.66 crores rupees domestically for a semi-hit verdict. Atithi Tum Kab Jaoge was released in 2010 and collected 41.12 crores rupees domestically for an average verdict. London Dreams was released in 2009 and collected 28.96 crores rupees domestically for a flop verdict. All the Best was released in 2009 and collected 41.41 crores rupees domestically for a semi-hit verdict. Golmaal Returns was released in 2008 and collected 51.12 crores rupees domestically for a hit verdict. Mehbooba was released in 2008 and had no available box office data for a flop verdict. You Me or Hum was released in 2008 and collected 20.98 crores rupees domestically for a flop verdict. Sunday was released in 2008 and collected 20.30 crores rupees domestically for a flop verdict. Halla Bol was released in 2008 and collected 12.75 crores rupees domestically for a flop verdict. Ram Gopal Varma Ki Aag was released in 2007 and collected 7.39 crores rupees domestically for a flop verdict. Cash was released in 2007 and collected 18.57 crores rupees domestically for a flop verdict. Omkara was released in 2006 and collected 23.22 crores rupees domestically for a flop verdict. Golmaal, Fun Unlimited was released in 2006 and collected 29.33 crores rupees domestically for a hit verdict. Shikhar was released in 2005 and collected 6.62 crores rupees domestically for a flop verdict. Apharan was released in 2005 and collected 15.66 crores rupees domestically for a semi-hit verdict. Main Aisa Hi Hu was released in 2005 and had no available box office data for a flop verdict. Kaal was released in 2005 and collected 19.09 crores rupees domestically for an average verdict. Tango Charlie was released in 2005 and collected 7.16 crores rupees domestically for a flop verdict. Zamir, The Fire Within was released in 2005 and had no available box office data for a flop verdict. Blackmail was released in 2005 and collected 4.14 crores rupees domestically for a flop verdict. Insan was released in 2005 and collected 6.58 crores rupees domestically for a flop verdict. Raincoat was released in 2004 and collected 2.54 crores rupees domestically for a flop verdict. Yuva was released in 2004 and collected 14.25 crores rupees domestically for a flop verdict. Masti was released in 2004 and collected 20.28 crores rupees domestically for a hit verdict. Khaki was released in 2004 and collected 25.79 crores rupees domestically for an average verdict. Gangajal was released in 2003 and collected 11 crores rupees domestically for an average verdict. Chori Chori was released in 2003 and collected 4.35 crores rupees domestically for a flop verdict. Qyamat was released in 2003 and collected 10.48 crores rupees domestically for an average verdict. Divangi was released in 2003 and collected 3.15 crores rupees domestically for a flop verdict. The Legend of Bhagat Singh was released in 2003 and collected 17.46 crores rupees domestically for an average verdict. Hum Kisi Se Kam Nahi was released in 2002 and collected 11.44 crores rupees domestically for an average verdict. Company was released in 2002 and collected 7.45 crores rupees domestically for a flop verdict. Tera Mera Saath Rahe was released in 2002 and collected 19 crores rupees domestically for a flop verdict. Lajja was released in 2001 and collected 13.83 crores rupees domestically for an average verdict. Ye Raaste Hai Pyar Ke was released in 2001 and collected 3.04 crores rupees domestically for a flop verdict. Raju Chacha was released in 2000 and collected 15.87 crores rupees domestically for a flop verdict. Deewane was released in 2000 and collected 7.76 crores rupees domestically for a flop verdict.